This podcast is part of the Blueberry Network, where listeners and podcasters come together. Find out more at blueberrywithnoease.com.
The Eat Sleep Right podcast is brought to you by generous grant from the Built on Dreams Media Network, with additional funding by the Sims Media Foundation, and from the generosity of listeners like you.
Stand by, please. Rolling on 6. On 6.
Welcome to Lessons on the Writer's Voice. Gain trusted advice and perspective from writers featured on Eat Sleep Right. Use every moment you can learning the craft of writing by listening while on the go, in your car, at the gym, or while you're on break at work. Eat Sleep Right is here to help you become the writer you've dreamed of being. Eat Sleep Right is also brought to you by the generous cooperation of Writers World Facebook group. Join Writers World on Facebook, a solicitation-free group for writers of fiction, nonfiction, and poetry. A writing group that concentrates on critiques of posted material. The Realities of Writing by Randall Andrews. Read by Adam Scull. Beginning writers are like waves breaking to the shore, and I was one of them once. Someone said to me today, "You shouldn't give me absolutes. Just because that's your style doesn't mean it works for me." If I had a dime for every time I heard that, you get the picture. More importantly, contrary to what the writer said to me, I too believed what she believed, that regardless of what the experts said to me, times are changing, and therefore all the stuff that was considered bad 50, 100, 500 years ago doesn't apply today. Sadly, the rigidity of my grammar and the holding on to the simple rules of structure clouds the more succinct lesson of good writing. You see, she questioned my pointing out that the massive use of adjectives is forced, telling, and not good storytelling. She said her voice was all about adjectives, all about the run-on sentence, all about the elimination of punctuation altogether. She was a new breed, and I'd better get used to it. It's hard not to smile. You see, I was a new breed decades ago who decided punctuation and structure wasn't part of my voice. I discovered I didn't know what the voice meant. Voice is not how your words are written. Voice is what is written and how it's said. So if your voice stutters, or if you have the angry voice, or if you have a voice which is always in deep thought, structure will always be the same. Grammar will not only be necessary, it will be imperative. Do you understand? You see, I discovered without proper structure, "Can we eat, Grandma?" takes on a whole new meaning. What was important to learn was that I didn't have to lose my ideas. I didn't have to lose my idiosyncratic tics, but I had to make sure I delivered them to the reader in a concise way that was understood, and the only way to do that was to write properly. Your voice depends on your writing with structure. Now, to her other point. I speak passively. That's my voice. You can use passive verbs. It's not going to be great literature, but it's not grammatically wrong. Fair warning, though, passive verbs isn't the same as passive construction. You can speak and have a voice that uses passive verbs, but you will die a grisly writer's death if you use passive construction. Passive construction isn't the same as using passive verbs. You can write, "I was running," all day long. It's lazy, but it isn't wrong. You can't write, "He was stopped by the policeman." Why? Because that isn't a case of lazy passive verbs, it's a case of incorrect placement of subject and object. The policeman is the subject, not him. He is the object, and as such, the sentence is about the policeman. The next sentence, if following sentence structure and on board to stream the consciousness of the reader, will give us more detail about the officer. He was pulled over by the policeman. He asked for his license. At this point, the reader is thoroughly confused. The policeman pulled him over. He asked for the license. Now we get it. Voice is not about structure. It's about cadence, tempo, style, but it will always be grammatically correct. If he stutters, the comma or the ellipse will dominate the paragraph, rightfully so. If he is overly excited, the exclamation point will surely find a spot. The rules will be more important the more unique your voice is. If you're looking for a community that can offer you tools, support, and advice to start your own adventures in writing, then prepare to have the cauldron of your imagination stirred. I started the Eat, Sleep, Write podcast so more people can understand what it's like to be a writer and to get more eyes on your books. My goal is to help you achieve the success you so richly deserve. I salute your success in writing.
Thank you for listening to another edition of the Eat, Sleep, Write podcast, located at eatsleepwrite.net. Please send any questions, comments or suggestions to comments@eatsleepwrite.net. Please consider a donation to support the Eat, Sleep, Write podcast. Donations can be sent to our PayPal address at donations@eatsleepwrite.net. Once in a lifetime, the theme music for the Eat, Sleep, Write podcast, courtesy of Stephen Paul, all rights reserved, used by permission. Please join us again for the next edition of the Eat, Sleep, Write podcast.